And so my lesson, and I tell this to my own kids who are in their 20s, like 3 adventures a decade. Do 3 things that are different. If you do that in your 20s, one of the things you'll find things you like, you find things you don't like. And it's super important to find what you don't like. That's super important. But the second and big thing is you widen your horizon of risk.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Zach Ewell, podcast producer at Leader's Edge. In this episode, our editor-in-chief, Sandy Laycox, sits down with author and New York Times contributor David Brooks, moments after delivering a talk at last year's Insurance Leadership Forum. Brooks shares life and career advice for those navigating the 21st century job market, steps people can take to widen their horizon on risk, and how something simple as talking to a stranger can benefit us as people. Give it a listen.
So it's very exciting to have you here with us at ILF, Mr. Brooks.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
You just gave a great talk, and I'd love to just tease out a few of the themes for our listeners. Your book.
I don't know a person.
Tell us why you decided to write this book.
Well, there are 2 reasons. One, there's a crisis of disconnection, a lot of lonely people in the country, so it's sort of a national problem. But it's also, we writers are working out our stuff in public. And one of my favorite things about writing is we're beggars who tell other beggars where we found bread. And so one of my weaknesses as a human being is that I'm not that great at social connection, and I'm too time obsessed. And I didn't project the kind of vulnerability that you would need to have people confide in you.
Yeah.
And so I went through a lot of my adult life, nobody really confiding. I just wanted to change that. And so I write a book to try to be a hammer to mold myself into a slightly less deranged person.
All right. Well, so my next question is, now that you've finished it, do you feel differently? Did it change anything for you?
Yeah, I now, people trust me more. When people come to me with a personal problem, I don't panic.
Yeah.
And then one thing I don't do this every time, I don't exaggerate. But when I'm on a plane and there's an hour left in the flight, I'll start talking to the person next to me. I won't do it with 3 hours. I don't need that much time. But 1 hour. And we underestimate how much we'll enjoy that. We underestimate how much we'll enjoy talking to strangers. We underestimate how much people want to go deep. And so it's added a little wrinkle of pleasure. And it's been a nice introduction to humanity just to have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I wonder what I would do if you just started talking to me on a plane.
I would be asking you about your childhood. That's my opening gambit.
There's lots of great themes that come out in your book. Tell us about why it's important to be known as a human.
It's baked into our evolutionary sauce. We evolved to be in groups of 150 people totally looking at each other. The concept of privacy was not something most early hominids understood. And so if we don't feel somebody's looking out for us, we feel existentially unsafe. And if you look, there's a great novel by Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man, it's about race in this country. But he says in the first paragraph that when people look at me, they see everything around me, but they don't see me. They see a category of my race, or they see something else, but they don't see me. And if you look in the mirror and you don't see yourself reflected in society's gaze, it's deeply alienating, as it should be.
You talk about different types of people in your book, illuminators and diminishers. Tell us what those are and why is that important?
Yeah, the diminishers are the people you meet at a party or wherever, where they don't really see you. They don't care about you. They don't ask you questions. Sometimes I leave a party and I think, that whole time nobody asked me a question. And I've come to believe that only about 30 or 40% of humans are question askers. Mm-hmm. And one thing diminishers do is they stereotype, and they do a thing called stacking, which is I learn one fact about you. You're from Texas, and therefore I make a whole series of assumptions about who you must be. And I can tell you as a journalist, those stereotypes are always wrong. People never fit into a stereotype. And so those are diminishers. Illuminators are the people who make you feel warm and lit up. I've been interviewed by Oprah twice in my life.
Oh, nice.
And when you're in her presence, you're the beam of her attention is boom. She's superstar level. And I actually, when I was writing the book, I would watch her interviews on TV, and she is quiet when things are sad, but she's warm. She talks back. Yeah. Her eyes change. She's a very active listener. Yeah. And so it's a great skill to just be burning calories. That's how heavily you're listening. And she has that ability. But a lot of people have that ability. They just make you feel like, wow, I'm really smart. This person thinks I'm so funny.
And it's interesting. I feel like when you meet, even if you never heard any of this that you've explained, if you meet someone like that, you do feel better and you don't even realize it when you're in their presence.
I've become, I never had a chance to read this, but I've become a real fan of small emotions. Like when you're at a cashier's at the CVS or whatever, and they greet you warmly compared to when they're gruff and rude, it really makes a difference in your day. And it's just like a 10-second moment.
Yeah.
But so small emotions are underappreciated.
That's absolutely true. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the younger generation. The insurance industry is facing a huge talent gap. It's like the biggest issue that everyone talks about. How do we attract young talent? You opened up your talk by saying, the kids today need pathways. Please help them. Can you talk about that statement a little bit?
Yeah, I teach at college, so I have a lot of college seniors who are obsessed, like, what am I going to do next? And one young woman said to me, I wish I was young in the 90s. I think it would have been so much easier.
Oh.
And I told her, well, I was young in the 90s, or at least younger, and it was easier. And I think it was easier. And one of the things, there are a lot of ways we can go with this, but one is just thinking of a career pathway. So first, when I got to college, it felt like there were 8 careers. You could be a teacher, lawyer, you could sell insurance, whatever, but there was a limited number, so it didn't seem like that hard a choice. Now it seems there are infinite number, and there are no clear pathways. And then, in some fields, they want you to go through the narrowest of little apertures. So, for example, a lot of young, smart kids, they want to go to Goldman Sachs. And so there are 3,000 interns at Goldman Sachs every summer. There are 360,000 applicants for those 3,000. So we're trying to squeeze all these talented people into one little lane. And if we have a lot more different lanes, and so what we need is something called opportunity pluralism. Lots of different lanes. But then a lot of young people don't know, say they want to go in the insurance business. They don't know, they have no idea what the steps are. They don't know anybody in it. There's like nobody, it's like an ocean. I had one of my students, she graduated from Yale, so she's a very smart, talented lady. And she said, when I was in college, everything was station to station. There was always the next test, the next thing to apply for. Then I got out of college, I was in a vast ocean with no markers. I had no idea where to steer. And so if people at this foundation could provide some lane markers, say, here's the next step. Talk to me, here's how my life worked. I think a lot of young people, they haven't talked to people like, how did your career develop? They don't understand that it's always based on some freak thing.
It's true, it's true.
And if we could give them like some clarity, then at least they'd say, oh, that's a path. And then they could know how to make the next step. But instead, we just leave them out in the vast ocean of nothing.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of people in their 20s they're wondering.
Yeah.
And so my lesson, and I tell this to my own kids who are in their 20s, like 3 adventures a decade. Do 3 things that are different. If you do that in your 20s, one of the things you'll find things you like, you find things you don't like. And it's super important to find what you don't like. That's super important. But the second and big thing is you widen your horizon of risk. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't talk about risk at an insurance conference.
Yes, that's the perfect thing to talk about.
But if you do something crazy, forever after you'll say to yourself, well, I did that.
Yeah.
So I could try some other crazy thing. And so if you widen your horizon of risk, you will carry that horizon for the rest of your life.
Well, that's fascinating. 2 more questions for you. For leaders, again, still talking to all of our listeners who are running insurance brokerages, how do you make the people in your organization feel seen?
Well, first by letting them talk before you dominate a meeting. I mean, the biggest thing is questions, and then taking time, and then the third thing. And I've been in some very healthy organizations and some very unhealthy ones. Setting up so there are some organizations that make a mark on you, and some that don't. You meet somebody who went to Morehouse College, you know they're a Morehouse man. That's an organization that leaves a mark. It used to be, I don't know if it's still true, Procter & Gamble. Somebody worked at Procter & Gamble. You knew they worked at Procter & Gamble. And so what do those organizations, those thick organizations have? Well, first, a clear purpose, and everybody in the team knows the purpose, their role in that purpose. Second, every voice counts. Third, they have retreats like this one where you see each other before the makeup goes on and after the makeup comes off. Fourth, there's music. it's very hard to hate somebody if you dance with them. Often the organizations have a sacred origin story. This is how we came to be. This is how we had hard times. This is how we overcame them. People could see themselves in that story. And then finally, they're generative. When people leave the organization, they want to take the culture to the next place they go. So if they left General Electric, the next company they wanted to go, they wanted to create a little GE because they found that's a really great culture. And so at all the organizations here, a leader can decide either we're going to invest in making a thick organization or it's going to be transactional and people will pass through and they might make some money or not, but it's not going to be something that changes them.
Okay. What is the next book?
It's
or thing that you're going to be focused on?
I'm writing a book on motivation and desire. And, we're talking about talent, which the foundation is involved in. I live in a system in my colleges where I teach where people think intelligence is the most important part of ability. I completely reject that. I think determination and motivation are the most important. You want to hire people who will run through walls and who are passionately dedicated to learning. They will be different at 30 than they were at 20, different at 40 than they were at 30. And they just keep growing. They're machines of learning. And it's very hard to find that because it doesn't show up in the resume. And so I've asked people who hire for companies like this one, how do you locate the people who will try hard?
Yeah.
And it's actually very hard to do. And I have one guy who just said, I ask him straight out, are you ambitious? Turns out people won't lie. They say, yeah, I'm really ambitious. And it could be a bad kind of ambition, which is selfish, but it could be a good kind of ambition. But and the other thing one friend of mine said, I ask them what tabs are open on your browsers.
Ooh.
And so like what are you doing when nobody's telling you what to do? You can tell a lot about how a person, whether they're curious or not, by what they're doing when nobody's telling them what to do.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I lied. I have one more question.
Okay.
I can't help myself. What's your favorite thing that you've ever written? It doesn't have to be a full book.
Oh, that's
Could have
a
been
good question. You love all your books like children. I wrote a book. I wrote two things that I'm proud of. One was I had my oldest friend in the world committed suicide, and I wrote a piece about what it was like to not know how to walk through that with him, and then what I learned in the 3 years that he did that. I felt proud about that. I think it helped people. I wrote a piece about my kid's my kid's bar mitzvah somehow. That it's always the personal ones.
Yeah.
It's funny. I can remember my my favorite headline that I've ever written.
Oh, what is that?
Which was shallow, but I interviewed a French philosopher named Bernard-Henri Lévy, and if anybody knows who this guy is, he's astoundingly good-looking French guy. He's got long, black, flowing hair, and he wears his shirts open to his navel, so he's like, glamour. And so my headline for that was, God is dead, but my hair is perfect.
Love it. Love it. That's the best. Nice. Well, thank you. This has been such a pleasure. Just a great honor to interview you. So thanks so much for joining us.
We covered a lot of good stuff in 15 minutes. I appreciate it.
I tried my best.
That was Leaders Edge Editor-in-Chief Sandy Laycox talking with David Brooks. I hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes of our Leaders Edge podcast, please subscribe or go to leadersedge.com.